Well, I'd like to welcome you to Northwest TV this morning. I'm sure you're surprised I'm handling a different kind of a program, but that's part of my calling. And I'm privileged this morning to host in the studio. My immediate right is Reverend Dr. Patrick O'Neill from Australia, and he's heading Heart Apostolic Ministry International. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Great.
Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, sir. And on my far right, I have in the studio Bishop Charles Mukuka, and he's a well-known face in Solwezi, and a very close friend of mine, and we'll be together through this program. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. And we also have in the studio, who will be joining us a bit later on, Pastor Maziopa, and he'll be also joining us, I think, in the next 15 or so minutes as we go on to this program. So first and foremost, I'd like to welcome you to Solwezi. And what is your specific mission from Australia to Solwezi?
Well, perhaps I could just start out by sharing a little bit of the focus and background of the ministry. Basically, it comes back to something that the Lord spoke very clearly to me about 15 years ago, and that was to go to the African nations and raise up sons. And so you could say that the Lord has given me this pattern. I see it as a blueprint, a pattern from heaven, placed here on earth, placed in my hands to be able to go to the African nations. And so I'm here in Zambia at this time to continue that work of raising up sons. And in doing that, sons become in turn leaders, they become ministers that serve in whatever gifting, whatever calling the Lord Jesus himself has graced them in. And so we have churches planted, we have ministries raised up. And so what I do is I recognise that according to the direction of the Lord and build relationship to encourage those ministries and those churches that are produced, that are planted in that ministry.
Great. Where did you get into ministry? When did you get a calling to go into?
I've been a Christian, born again, filled with the Spirit of the Lord for 32 years now. And in fact, I'm actually fourth generation Pentecostal background, so there's a long heritage, a long history, a great legacy there, many stories. Often I still sit with my grandmother who's still alive, and we discuss and we talk about the things of God, we talk about the things of the kingdom, and all those testimonies of people being healed and saved and delivered. So 32 years, in fact 6 months after I got saved, I began preaching the gospel. So I was a very fast starter. I was one of these people, I was so zealous, so we like to say in Australia, full on. There was no half measure speed, it was pedal to the metal, full speed, and I would preach to anything and everything that would listen, anything and everything that moved, I preached the gospel to. The wonderful thing is that by the grace of God, I've seen many, many people over the years also come to that place where they're following Jesus, where they have committed their lives.
At what point did you realize I'm called to full-time ministry?
I had a big struggle for many years, knowing, growing up as a child, as a young boy, as a teenager, knowing my grandmother and certain family members were serving as Christians, and I realised there was like a pressure coming down on top of me, realising that I'm being moved towards something here that's bigger than myself. And I had a number of experiences over the years growing up where in fact I should never have made it alive to my 18th birthday. I should have been dead 3 times over. It's a little bit of a lengthy story, but as an 18-month-old baby, I remember, well, I don't remember, I was told, we don't remember much at 18 months of age, but apparently my mother had taken me out of the bath. She'd been bathing me, wrapped me in a towel, brought me into the lounge room, sitting room area, placed me on the rug on the floor, wrapped in the towel, and my father was there preparing an open fire and was then kindling the fire, and he had a bottle of kerosene he was using to try and get things going. And what happened was things got going all right. They got right out of control. The flame came back up onto the bottle. My father was holding the bottle. Next, the bottle was on fire. The fire there with the kerosene, he'd dropped the bottle. The fire just apparently scattered, just went through the house in a matter of a couple of minutes. And my father, with his hands on fire, had picked me up, grabbed me and ran out of the house. And so at that time in life, my parents suffered, having lost everything, and all they were left with was what they were standing up in. And there I was as a small baby, wrapped in a towel. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of, you could say, a number of attempts. I see it as a number of attempts by the devil to take my life. Similar thing happened, similar type of scenario happened when I was about 15. I was actually a passenger in a motor vehicle that was involved in an accident. We were towing a trailer. They were family friends I was travelling with, and the driver of the vehicle actually died upon impact in that accident. And the last thing I remembered was falling asleep in that car I'd been navigating, giving the driver directions from a map. Woke up in a car that was a twisted, mangled wreck, and I remember trying to undo seat belts in the car, trying to help others in the car, and then I'd gone unconscious, passed out again, then woke up again on the side of the road. And so it progressed like that. I ended up in hospital. I woke up in hospital. My parents had come at the time. As I said, I was 15 years of age. I was in the hospital for 36 hours with a tongue that was so swollen they were trying to give me slivers of ice to get some fluids into my body. And 36 hours was miraculous. I left the hospital. My parents took me home. The rest of the family members suffered from multiple injuries, broken pelvises, broken ribs, ruptured spleen. They were in hospital for 6 to 12 months recovering. It was just so bad. And I remember my parents taking me home and getting to the back door, and I'll never ever forget the situation. My grandmother was waiting. She was there at the back door, and as I opened the back door, she greeted me and she said, "God has spared your life. He has a purpose for you." And those words have just continued to ring in my mind and in my heart since that very time. The interesting thing was also at that time in my life, where I was attending secondary college, I went to an all-boys secondary college. I used to play table tennis. I was playing B-grade pennant table tennis with another young fellow, 15-year-old. We were good mates, good friends. And his father was a Baptist church minister. And so this young fellow, I've never forgotten his name. His name was Billy Morgan. We would be there playing table tennis, hitting the ball backwards and forwards, practicing, and he would always be talking about Jesus. He drove me crazy. And I remember one day, I literally screamed at him. I said, if you don't shut up and stop preaching this Jesus at me, I'll never play table tennis with you again. Needless to say, I played table tennis with him again the next day and the day after and the month after
and
that.
He never stopped.
And he never stopped talking about Jesus. But I knew God was on my case. He was trying to get my attention. He was saying, "Hey, I'm here. I have a purpose for your life. Your life is not going to work the way it's going." And so at the age of 15, I continued on. It wasn't until I'd reached nearly the age of 18, I'd been involved in another accident in a car. Miraculously again, I had escaped unharmed, and I began to realise, I thought, what is happening here in my life? I looked back over my life, there are other things that were happening. You know, I've come to realise there's divine appointments.
Right.
You know, there are divinely appointed moments when it's like God is there waving a flag and he's saying, "Hey, I'm here. I can deal with that thing in your life, but you need to commit yourself to me. You need to welcome me into your life. Allow me to have a part in your life. Allow me to direct you and lead your life. I've got the answers to the things that you struggle with." And of course, I was a typical teenager.
Yeah.
I was a typical teenager. I loved to play sport. I loved to get out and kick the football, the soccer ball around. I played cricket. I ran marathons. I was in an athletic club, and young boys like young girls, so I liked girls too. But my parents,
We're always there to
my father was a very wise man. He deliberately sent me to an all-boys technical college. And so he knew, he said, you go to the all-boys technical college because I don't want distractions. But anyway, I was a typical teenager.
Nice to learn, Doc. That's
Yeah.
great. Bishop, you're hosting Reverend Patrick in Solwezi.
Yes, please.
What's the agenda and what's the mission of this program?
Yes, we have been having the revivals. Yeah, which ended yesterday. Yeah, we were having the revivals in Chawama.
Okay,
Yeah, we're using Pentecostal Holiness Church
great.
at Bishop Kaumba's church, and it has been awesome.
Great.
Yeah, the 3 days of revival with Dr. Patrick, it has been great.
How did you meet?
We first connected online, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has been my spiritual father for some time now.
I think it's about 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so yeah, he has been.